Business is actually built on the mistakes that we have made in the past. Business is something that we learn over time because business lessons never end. Mistakes are something that we have to make because our business depends on these mistakes where we get more experience from. There are so many things when it comes to mistakes because when people listen mistake, they take a step back and think that everything that we're doing is wrong. But there are so many things that we don't analyze because we have lack of learning when it comes to business itself. In this video, I'll be telling you a couple of mistakes that you make while you're learning about business. There are so many things we rush into. There are so many ideas that we get at once, and everything is something that we want to implement. Especially when it comes to young bloods, they always want to promote and implement because they think they have collected enough information. But over time, what we fail to realize is that we are quite fast when it comes to this, and this generation are actually very smart when it comes to developing a business. And we can see so many young entrepreneurs already standing out there and raising their voices to build their business in a right way. So there are a couple of learnings that we come across over and over that we shouldn't ignore also, just so that we can learn so many things and then understand what is the main idea and what is the main point that we can come across when it comes to business. First point, we tend to learn everything at once. Why I'm telling you this is that we cannot learn everything in a day. You cannot go fight a war by just learning all the tricks in just one night. That's not how it works, right? Always everything has to go in a slow process, understanding and thinking that there is a particular time space for you. There is where you understand why you need to take things slow, and you cannot learn everything overnight. Business is something that you learn every day. Probably there are a couple of base foundations that you have to learn initially. Trying to learn everything in a day is not possible. You cannot actually have the entire ration that you get in the initial of the month in just one day. You have to have it time to time and then slow. And also, what happens if you eat too much? You happen to have an upset tummy. That's exactly what happens in business as well. You cannot take in everything and just implement that thing over and over again. Business itself is a long-term process. So when you're thinking about business, you always have to think that how slow should I go and what is my learning today? So always focus on the key learnings that you get before starting a business. Sometimes you have to take things slow, but always be prepared when it comes to the foundation itself. Next mistake that we often see is that you don't actually put things into practice. Practical learning is so important as much as theory itself. We all can by heart, we all can go past the exams, but are we actually implementing that in life? If at all I one day call you up on stage and say that, think about that, will you be able to talk? You should be so confident enough to talk. This can only happen when you have actually put that into a practical use. I'm not telling that you have to start a business immediately, build the business, go about with it, fail once and then come back and start over again. This is not what I mean. I'm telling work for someone, because when you're working for someone, you will notice a couple of things that is not supposed to be done, and you will notice how this can be changed. You can also start by taking advices from others and also start by understanding what the other person wants. And you can also see the way the work environmental culture works, and you can also understand how the entire management is built and how hard it is to give time to each and every work. When we go as employees, initially we are already exhausted to do the same work every day. But when you have a business, you're bound to do that work because it's your business. If you step down the position, everything might actually fall apart. Always it's important to work for someone and then start your business, because it's easier to start something which you've already seen practically. Next one that I'm going to talk about is the most important thing that most of the young entrepreneurs are suspected to do. One thing is that rush to build the good benchmark. You cannot rush to the top at once. You have to take everything in a slow process. Some companies might actually consume more time than the other company. It just depends on the way your business is running. You cannot become a brand in just 1 year. You have to build your brand, understand what is the main purpose of your business, and then take it step by step rather than rushing it to the top. Because if that happens, I'm very sure those are not the ethical ways that you have chosen. Because not everything is spoon-fed. There are a couple of situations and challenges that you have to go by yourself. And you have to understand what is the main use of our business and how can I take it in a slow process, because the slower you take, the longer you survive. Because that is where you get to analyze, and everything which comes in a slow process will give you time to think and time to analyze the next challenge which is going to come. Risk is something that you have to take in these years, because once you take the risk, that is where you get the benchmark. It's not that easy to become a brand. That is where each and every individual who's becoming an entrepreneur should think. You're planning to be an entrepreneur, but are you ready and have you thought about the difficulties that you have to see? Because once a very wise man happened to tell me that we all look at the side of success only. We don't look at the difficulties that have come across us. We only look at the shiny red carpet, but we do not look at the struggle that happens behind it. Always do not see the success stories, see the failure stories, because when you see the failure stories, you will understand that it's not easy to succeed. And that's where you'll put in more and more hard work and then understand why taking things slow is that important. Next one is stop looking for shortcuts. There is no easier way for success. The only easy way for success is hard work. If you work hard right now, I'm very sure those success years that are going to come is going to become much more easier to you, and next time anything comes up in your plate is going to be much more easier. As we have seen a lot of companies that have taken shortcut and hit the rock bottom at once. It's not easy. That's what even happens in trade and investment itself. You can never take a shortcut. There is no shortcut for success. You always have to follow your own process, follow your own ethics, and make sure that you reach there step by step. Mistakes are supposed to be made. Mistakes is your learnings itself. But if you reach the top by shortcuts, you're going to eventually fall very soon too. So understand that taking shortcuts is not the way that you can react when it comes to your business. You have to be really smart by the way you're taking your business, because one little wrong turn can also affect the entire business and the people working with it. Next one is accept and admire defeat. First thing is that accepting what you're capable of rather than trying to deny it that you cannot do anything. There are a couple of things that as an individual you cannot do everything. You have to be expert in your way that you're actually passionate about, and then try to learn rather than telling that I will not do it. Yes, you have to be very optimistic and confident about what you're doing, but over time you have to even admire the defeat. You have lost. Ego should not play your game here. When usually people lose, ego plays the game there. Ego tries to win the entire battle by getting in wrong ideas, because in that rush of anger, you never know what you might do. That is where you have to sit back and admire the defeat, because once you see why you've been defeated, you will see what is the plan used by the competitors itself. And then if you deep down sit and think, you're going to see the best way why you got beaten and why is the reason that they won. When you see that, you will actually get a huge knowledge about the ways that you can win yourself. And when you admire defeat is when you can win. Because once you sit calm, think that you've been defeated and what are the ways that they use, that is where you will use a counter strategy back and then bring out more and more better ideas to defeat people and then bring your entire company up. First key learning that you have to keep in mind is that acceptance. Acceptance does not only mean about defeat, it also means about new ideas coming in your life and how your business has to keep changing according to that. You have to accept the changes being made around you. You have to accept the ideas which has been given to you. You have to accept that more and more young people are going to come up with good ideas, and you have to accept that your business has to go under many changes if and when it's needed. And most importantly, defeat is the best thing that you can accept, because once you accept defeat is when you're going to find better ways and have more time to think about a counter strategy back. So these were a couple of things that I had in mind for you. If you guys think that you have a business, and also make sure that you follow the guidelines that I have given, because this is something you have to not forget, and make sure you learn, because these are the ones which are going to act as the guidelines and help you even when it comes to your business as well. Do not forget to like, share and subscribe, and also download our Freedom app. It's got more than 800 courses. If it comes to business, you've got live mentors teaching you about how to start a business from scratch and then understand a business, what are the marketing ways, sales ways and the growth ways itself. And then you can also start by learning business and marketing. And if it comes to financial management, we also have courses on personal finance where you can understand what are the loans and what are the insurances that you need for your business itself. And if you're someone who's more and more interested and keen about organic farming, we have so many courses even on farming, animal husbandry and everything. You can learn more and more from our app, because it's going to give you everything in detail, and this will also help you live a great livelihood. If you want to start today, download. Thank you so much. Get wise and break free.